No, I'm live recording it, so I think it's recorded live.
Oh boy.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here. I'm excited and delighted that you're all joining us here today with me and of course Anthony Melchiori. Although Anthony, we're not really joining them today, are we? Because we're recording this a couple of days early because we got a travel day on Monday, right?
We are joining them in spirit. We do. I actually have a travel day on Sunday, trying to get prepared for Monday to see you, but I guess not. And, listen, there's World Series of Poker going on, so you may lose me for a couple of shows on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I don't know. Or we might actually have a show live with some folks from the World Series of Poker on Wednesday. You're going to have to tune in and find out. Anthony, I was at the lodging conference last week, and I'm very excited about how great it was. But you know what? I was hanging out with the team over at Radisson Hotels Americas, and it was really great to see how much they've changed, how much they're doing to help franchisees find success. That's why I want all of you guys out there who are investing in hotels to consider Radisson Hotels America as a great place to invest. So I actually had Jim Alderman, their CEO, on one panel, Anthony, and I had Bill Hall, one of their top development guys, on another panel. It was really great to hear what
you were a panel maven. You were great, but Renaissance gives everyone another option. We know who all the big players are, and it gives them a really, really great option. So I'm excited to see them. Hopefully I'll see them in the next couple of conventions.
Yep.
So what are we talking about today?
So speaking of, options, sometimes people with disabilities, they don't have the options of those that don't. I was speaking to some folks over at an autism awareness group, Autism Double Speak. We had Alan Day on our show in the past, and, really started getting me thinking about how much more we need to do as a community to help folks with disabilities find places to stay or even participate in hospitality, right?
We do a shitty job. There's just no way to do it. I mean, I people are going to not like me for that, people in our community, but we do a shitty job. I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine, Anthony Amarillo. Anthony, he was in high school, and let's just say he dove into a pool and was in the wrong side of the pool, and he's been in a wheelchair. I'm 56. He's probably close to 60. He's been in a wheelchair since high school. And he's been very successful, travels all over the world, all over the country. And he's had difficulty getting on these, heavenly beds type of beds, where now they're double the size they used to be. So he's paying $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 a night to stay in a nice hotel, and he can't even get on the bed. And he had a platform built that he trademarked, and he couldn't, and I couldn't even get a brand to take a look at it, even to pay attention to it. They're not interested in it. And we all know the ADA compliance is sometimes very difficult for older buildings to comply to. But even in newer buildings, some owners just don't want to spend the money to do the right things by the ADA community. So this has been something near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because there's a major theme park company that sometimes doesn't upgrade its rides because then they'd have to add all the accessibility stuff, right? So it's frustrating.
Which is really, it's whether you compare it to gender, whether you compare it to race, whatever you compare it to, you're taking a population and you're saying you're not important enough for me to make those financial changes. Wouldn't you do it for other people? So I'm really glad we're doing the show, and it's been something near and dear to my heart.
Well, so let's welcome. We have two great folks from Wheel the World. They're an organization that offers accessible experience with detailed accessibility information. Anthony, I'm all talked out from that lodging conference. I can hardly form a sentence anymore. And what they do is they offer more than 60 destinations with all of that great information. So let's welcome Alvaro and Camilo from Wheel the World. Gentlemen, it's great to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. So, Alvaro, I think maybe we need to start, at the beginning, right? Tell us about you, why this is so important to you, and why you want to help other folks by having this type of resource available. What's your story, sir?
Yes. So, hello, Glenn, Anthony. Very excited to be part of this show that we really like. And I think Anthony gave a great brief of what's the problem that we are trying to solve. So Camilo and I, we are both 36. We pretty much grew up together in the same city in Santiago de Chile, far away from where you guys are. And when I was 18 years old, I had a car accident. I broke my neck at the level of C5. And since then, I have paralyzed my body from the chest down. I move partially my arms. I don't move the fingers of my hands. And I always was an explorer, to put it that way. I loved the outdoors. I loved traveling, going places. And when I had my disability, of course, my accident, I thought that it was something that would be impossible for me to regain or to adapt, given and assuming that how inaccessible the world is, right? Especially if you would like to go into a place that is not familiar for you. And I started to figure out that it was possible, right, to find accessible accommodations in different places that I wanted to visit, figure out with friends, with family on how to adapt when things were not accessible for me. So I saw the problem since the very beginning of my accident and having my disability. But my dream ever was to visit a place in Chile where I grew up that is called Torres del Paine in Patagonia, Chile and Patagonia, south of the world. My dream was to visit this place. I was living at that point in Berkeley, California with Camilo. We both were studying our masters there. And we decided to figure out on how to do a trip there together with three other friends. And we started figure out what were the flights that we had to catch from Berkeley, what were the places to stay that will be accessible for me, and how to ideate this trip. We started reaching out organizations, tour operators, and people who work for the travel industry there. And we realized that nobody else in a wheelchair did the trip that we wanted to do at that point.
Right. Wow. So how did that make you feel at that particular time? Because you're already dealing with so much and you're trying to get to a place where you have a sense of normalcy, but then you're finding that you don't have access to that. So I guess it provoked you to react in a particular way.
Yeah, this was around like 5 years ago when we started ideating this trip. And I assumed that was the case, but in the past 3 years, I moved abroad to live in California. I was able to travel much more comparing to what I did before. So this confidence that I gained empowered me and also Camilo, because this was a thing that we worked together on, saying, okay, let's try to figure out on how to do it. Right? Let's become the first one to do it, with the mission, of course, hopefully that then others will repeat this trip after it. Well, long story short, I became the first person ever in a wheelchair to do this trip to Patagonia. And it was amazing for me, for Camilo, for our other friends that went with us. And our story went pretty much viral, specifically in California, both of us living there, and also in Chile, because all our connections and network and family were at that point there. And hundreds of people started reaching out, willing to repeat the same trip as we did.
Right.
And because that was just because we had the information on how to do it, what were the accessible accommodations, how we will move around.
Before we go forward, can we go back a little bit? Can you explain to people what that trip is, what that looks like, and what your challenges were for that trip?
And let me add a visual aid.
Yeah. Okay.
Camilo, do you want to answer this question?
Yeah. Well, Patagonia is an amazing place. Let's put it like that first.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's kind of like being in Alaska. I don't know. It's like this outdoor fantastic place where you can see like a very majestic type of landscape, from glaciers to like granite, like mountains, and you go through a hike between 5 to 7 days from point A to point B to point C. and it's just an amazing nature wilderness place. I would say that for me it's one of my favorite places on earth.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting. I went there a couple of years ago to shoot a show, and never once did I think about the challenges that somebody that was in a wheelchair would have faced. We faced challenges just being able to go through it, walking and hiking and doing whatever we were doing, and it was tough enough. So it's amazing.
Yeah,
and well. The challenge around it was finding the accessible accommodations, how we move around the national park and outside the national park in terms of transportation.
Right.
And we needed a special hiking wheelchair to navigate the trails that were not accessible for my wheelchair.
Right.
So we figure out all this through talking with local operators, finding this special wheelchair in France that we brought to Torres del Paine. And long story short, the trip was amazing, and we started then organizing this trip to other people from California, people from Australia, people from Chile, from all over the world. Then they said, okay, if Alvaro could do it, I also can do it. And we started helping to explore Patagonia. And at the same point, realizing that the challenge around accessibility, of course, is huge to travel to Patagonia, but also it's really annoying and hard to find a place to stay in New York that fits all your accessibility needs. And basically, many times, to rely on the information that the platforms or the hotel sites are displaying around their accessibility information.
Right.
And we started analyzing the problem, and we realized that people with disabilities in general, they are facing a variety of challenges when they travel and when booking a hotel or a tour and activity. Basically, because the information around accessibility is very hard to find. It's not online yet as the rest of the information that we are used to have online.
Right.
The second thing is that people with disabilities accessibility needs differ on each person.
Mm-hmm.
Because my needs as a manual wheelchair user are totally different from Anthony's friend that he might use a power wheelchair or even a manual wheelchair too, but maybe his wheelchair is, 3 inches wider, and that makes a totally different challenge.
Right. Let me ask a question about that, because in the United States, we have a standard size for all doorways and stuff like that, but it might not be like that in other countries, right? So something as simple as that could cause a huge issue.
Yes, and also what Anthony said, that like for older buildings, ADA is not right enough. And there's other standards around ADA that they suggest, for example, a height of a bed that Anthony says.
Right.
And normally ADA standards are thought of a height of the bed for someone who uses a power wheelchair to be very easy to use. For the ones who are manual wheelchair users, they need a much lower bed.
Right.
So what we realize is that information of accessibility needs to be gathered in detail, so people can understand what best fits their needs. Other thing that we have realized, and specifically for tours and activities, but also for hotels, is that businesses in general, they don't know how accessible or inaccessible they are. Right?
So because they're not even thinking about it generally, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's why we founded Wheel the World. As a company, our purpose is to make the world accessible. And what we are doing, we are collecting accessibility information in detail of accommodations, tours, and activities through technology, through a web app that we developed, and our community of people are collecting these data points, and we are displaying this into a booking platform that is gowheeltheworld.com, so people can search the listings that we offer with detailed information about accessibility, so they can book informed through us with all the information that they know.
And what's cool about this, guys, is you are having locations that people want to go to. Of course, here in the United States, Mexico, Peru, Costa Rica, Argentina, Chile, right? Fiji, France, Greece, Iceland, Kenya, wow, Spain, South Africa, the UK, and more. That's pretty exciting because these are the places I want to go to as a human being, right? And it's great that you're able to open it up for people. So tell me what the experience is like if you have a desire to go to one of these locations and you offer packages and stuff like that. It sounds to me like you take out all of the research and hard work from these folks and allow them to just concentrate on knowing they can be comfortable and just enjoy themselves.
And Camilo, why don't you take that? Why don't you take that?
Yeah, definitely. So our idea is to just make simple the process of someone with a disability to go from point A to point B. So the way that we're doing this is that when they sign up in the platform, they are building their accessibility profile. They're stating what are their specific accessibility needs. Right. And our system is recommending what type of listing is matching that specific need. So for example, if someone has a necessity of the altitude, a specific altitude of the bed, then the listing that we were going to provide is going to have that same type of altitude of bed that person is needing. Mm-hmm. So that way we can make a more reliable booking and guarantee an accessible experience. So that's kind of how we are doing it. And I'm happy that you mentioned all of those destinations, but we're working so hard to bring every time more destination, every time more listings, every time more things to do, more places to stay, more multi-day trips. At the end, we won't stop until we make the last corner of the earth more accessible, providing this very important information and allowing users to book trips as people without disabilities are doing today through platforms like Booking.com, Airbnb, or Expedia.
When dealing with hotels or travel agents or third parties, how have they received this? Are they very open? Are they very confused? Do they not care? Where are they?
Anthony, they love it. They love it. For them, it's like, oh my God, like it's always so complicated for them to understand what are like those specific needs that travelers with disabilities have. And for them, they're just following, in some cases, the ADA standard, which is not enough. At the end, what really fixed the problem is getting that information. And for them, our value proposition is super simple. Like we're opening the door to a new type of user, a new type of revenue that they weren't getting before. And on top of that, we're providing a certification and assessment that allows our partners to understand where they are and how they can improve. Because imagine when we get that information from our partners, for us, our system is also very easy to just say, you know what, there's a problem with the altitude of the bed. But you know what, there's also another problem with the altitude of the bar tables that you have in the restaurants, right? Like, because if someone with a disability wants to enjoy that property as fully as they want, they really need to understand what is that, like the altitude of the like the chairs, the door, the tables, everything, you know.
And I think the reason we've been so behind the eight ball is the market segment that comes from people that are in wheelchairs and have special needs is that they're it's not that big of a percentage of their market share, so they're not focused on it. If it was, you'd have the most accessible hotels in the world, right? Because they would focus on it.
Well, Anthony, I would suggest that people should focus on this. Being at the lodging conference last week, there's still a lot of revenue issues. Why not make a concerted effort to help this group of people, not only to do the right thing, but you might be able to put
it's not that they don't want to help. Listen, I'm just being honest with a person that's been in all the, been in meetings and hearing people. It's they don't want to lay out the expense. I mean, you saw what happened in this country when we went for the swimming pools, and you had to have that accessibility into the swimming pools. You saw a lot of hotel owners, and I don't want to make this a negative thing, just challenge hotel owners, but they really went out of their way to not make pools accessible, even though it's a federal mandate. So it's just really an important thing that you guys are doing, and I commend you. And it's hard enough, I'd imagine, with the challenges you face every day when you're going on a dream vacation. it should be a dream. It shouldn't be something that is more and more challenging and kind of almost take you away from your daily challenges and make it more accessible to you. So like you're not thinking of all the things that you deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, but Anthony,
Exactly.
may I address one of the points that I say that I respectfully disagree.
Oh,
The business case is crystal clear.
right.
What happens is that today 15% of the world population have disabilities. We're talking about 1 billion people.
Right.
Today in the States, Americans are spending $23 billion a year in hotels, tours, and activities only. Okay? And when you think somehow, every one of us, you, me, everyone will have a disability as a consequence of aging. So there's no way around it. Like sooner or later, we will require accessibility needs. We will need that information, specific information, whether you want to go to a trip to Patagonia, or you want to visit Barcelona, or you want to go to visit your parent, your family. So at the end, accessibility is something that like the world requires to make it bulletproof for the future at some point for everyone.
Yeah, and those are great numbers for our industry to hear, because I don't think our industry understands
No,
that
they don't.
those numbers are that big and that
Yeah.
powerful. So I wasn't saying I don't know the numbers, but I wasn't saying they weren't, those that big.
Yeah, no,
I was just saying that
that's only the US.
our industry really, I don't think is paying attention to it
Yeah.
in a lot of circumstances, unless they're mandated to.
Yeah.
And also it's important to like think about the history, right? Like disability movement in the US was like pretty much late 60s, right? When people started to talk about accessibility and inclusion, and the ADA movement and act ended up being implemented. And of course, the first things that the society focused in was in more essential things, right? Education, housing, transportation. And okay, we are 40 years from that times. And in these 40 years, many of us has been having access to education, work, money to travel, right? And more easiness to travel. So this is a growing market. It's growing 17% every year, right? And we have these assumptions that this is not a big enough market, but it's to paraphrase it, it's an untapped market, because it's already big, but it should be even bigger given the percentage of the population that has disabilities.
All right, so Alvaro, you guys are making the business case. So if hoteliers are listening to this, and they will be, what's their strategy to make money here so they do the right thing and want to help folks like you guys and your clientele?
They need to go to our website and sign up.
Right.
Well, that's an easy way to do it. But at the end, it's also a matter of I think that there are incremental improvements that they can easily do.
Right.
And the first thing is to understand what is their current level of accessibility that they have, and how can they improve in order to attract more users. Remember, like most of our users are seniors. So seniors are going to be using their facilities. So
also, seniors have the deep pockets, right?
Exactly.
They're the ones doing the multi-generational travel, all of that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
What would you say is the biggest challenge of all the challenges? What's the one that keeps coming up over and over again for people with disabilities?
That they don't have a... Okay, I can't. You have a lot of background noise, Alvaro, I think.
It's Alvaro. I'm going to mute him up for a second. All right, go for it.
Right. So the biggest challenges. Number one, there's not a centralized place for people with disabilities to find accessible places to stay, things to do, or multi-day trips.
Right.
Okay. So that's one aspect of it. So people when you don't have a disability, you're so used to getting to booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia, and click, and then you book whatever you need, right? Yep. That's not the reality for someone with a disability. So that's one of the challenges. The second is that the industry doesn't understand those specific needs that person with disabilities have. So again, that information, providing that information to the hotel, to the tour operator, is also crucial for them to be guaranteed an accessible experiences. So that's kind of like like where the main problems are.
Yeah.
Today, the reality when someone books a trip, just to give you an example, through these other platforms, is that, and oh my God, like for you, is like it's incredible to think it this way. Number one, they need to call like several times to make sure that they're gonna get the accessible room, or that they could even fit in that room. They need to get, they need to ask for pictures, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
once
can't
they get
tell you
there,
how many times I've showed up, they give me the accessible room.
exactly.
And what if somebody in the wheelchair comes in 12 minutes later? Right.
So, imagine, guys, like you going to an hotel and getting there and realizing that the altitude of the bed now is 3 meters. So actually, you cannot use the bed. And then you look to the bathroom on your right side, and then you see like, oh my God, there's no door. I cannot access to the. So that's kind of the reality. I just want to kind of graph the reality for someone without a disability, that kind of how it looked like for someone with a disability.
Right. Wow. That's really rough. So again, we urge everybody to go out there and, Go Wheel the World is a great resource for it. And I love that you could help teach them, because I know there are a lot of hoteliers out there who, once they realize they have to start thinking about this, they'll be in a situation of they don't know what they don't know. And by partnering with you to certify, they could learn how to make folks that need those services happy and engaged and loyal customers.
Another thing that hoteliers have to be attentive to is when you have somebody in a wheelchair in a room, know that what room they're in. Not everybody in a wheelchair is an accessible room, and vice versa. Because God forbid there's an emergency, those people may need a little extra time to get out of the hotel and a little bit more assistance.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Interesting. So what else do we need to know? If we want to learn more, if we want to reach out to you folks, if a more meaningful level. Camilo?
Yeah. Alvaro, I think that you have a lot of background noise. So what do you need to know? That we're here, that finally there's a solution. We're a team that is working very hard every time to improve both the experience of our travelers, but also our partners. Because at the end, we see ourselves not just connecting each other, but allowing those connections to become every time more meaningful.
Right.
So we are, for example, helping our partners to become more inclusive and accessible, and train them through an online certification process, which includes an academy where we can teach them like how to treat people with disabilities, what to do and what not to do. And we are providing that information in a very simple way. It's very easy to access to our systems. And at the end, if we can make every single person with disability like easier, that process to go into these places, everyone will be happy. Travelers with disabilities will be happy because they're exploring the places that they really want. And our partners will be also happy because they're part of the inclusive tourism. They're generating more revenue. They have this new type of user. So no one loses here, right?
Right. And check this out. Speaking of, getting out there, I love this particular photo,
Yeah.
That's really cool. The freedom of that must bring and feel. Alvaro, is your sound okay now? Are you able to?
Alvaro, is that you in the picture? Was that you two guys?
It's me, yes. That's a trip that we have in Peru, near Machu Picchu. We have these adaptive bikes that can be attached together. I am not very strong in my arms, so I can crank, but not strong enough for that terrain. So the guy before is a tour guide that is also supporting my crank and doing this amazing bicycle trip in Peru.
I love the spare tire. For those people that can't see it, there's a spare tire on the back, just like there were those old cars you saw during the century. That's fantastic.
All right, so let me just point out that this is really what this is all about. It's not just about the hotels. I know we've been focused on this, but it's also about giving people a variety of experiences that we all like to do. They can do adaptive surfing, kayaking, cave exploration, which I will probably not do because I'm too chicken. Whale watching, all of those kinds of things. So this is so super cool.
Thank you. We love it too.
And we invite people also to see our YouTube channel and also Instagram. We have tons of documentaries and content showing what is possible for us, right? And we have made so many people travel that they have never traveled before.
What's the one story? What's the one story that resonates with you from someone that went on one of your trips and was just blown away and maybe emotional and really was thankful?
Oof, that's you go first, Alvaro.
We have an amazing story of a couple. He's on a wheelchair. She can walk. She can walk, and she wanted to do the Patagonia trek. So they book flights together to Patagonia, and they say, "Okay, let's go together. I will wait you in the hotel for 3 days, so you can do the hike." And like 5 days before they took the flight, a friend of him, his name is Chris, said, "Have you seen this on the internet? Will the World doing this trip for people with disabilities in Patagonia?" So 5 days after going to Patagonia, he realized that he could do the trip with his wife.
Right.
And we have a beautiful video about that story on YouTube.
That's great. And there's probably a lot more of those great stories. I could only imagine, how you and other folks in your position must feel when you finally get out there and you have that sense of enjoyment.
Glenn and Anthony, we have been into like fairs specialized on people with disabilities all around the US. Mm-hmm. And some people, we have been with our stand there, and some people, they just come in and some of them, they even cry. Because it's like, thanks for your existence. And it's like, imagine someone being so appreciative of your product that is like even crying. That's very, very
powerful. Well, I'm an easy crier, so I see that. I could see that very easily. But how does the business model work? Is it do the tours, the hotels pay? Are you set up like a travel agent? Or do you get paid a commission? How does it work?
So we are a marketplace. Essentially, we do a connection between the supply side and the demand side. Demand side are our travelers, their families and friends, and the supply side, hotel tours and activities. And we charge a commission fee on every transaction done through our platform, which are basically the same commissions fee that you could get. We're not charging more money than the one that what you would be paying on Booking.com, Expedia, or Airbnb. Right. So think about ourselves like kind of the Airbnb, the Booking.com, but for people with disabilities.
Does the client pay? Does the client pay a fee too?
Yes, they pay directly through our platform, and then there's a percentage that goes to Will the World, and the rest goes to the partner. So we collect. The transactions happen through our platform, and then we have the payouts to our partners afterwards.
Got it.
Just like Airbnb or Booking.com.
Sure.
Right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. This has been absolutely.
Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime to join us. Thank you so much.
I hope that we can get an invite in maybe 2 more years, and you're gonna see how bigger we are. Maybe we're gonna have airlines, car rentals, cruises. We really want to make Will the World like the one-stop shop for people with disabilities to explore the world entirely.
Thank you very much.
Success story. Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a great one. All right, Anthony, that was really inspiring. But Suzanne had a great idea, so let's bring on Dr. Producer Suzanne for a quick idea. Hey,
Dr. Producer. I think that should be the official title. That you should get a degree to be a doctor producer. Like you have to get your PhD and then get a PhD in producing, and then we call you doctor producer.
Yeah, there we go. That's the way to go about it. So a couple of years ago, I actually was in your favorite place. I was in Las Vegas, and I fractured my kneecap. In case you're wondering, it's the hardest bone in your body. Yeah, hardest body in your bone to break.
Oh,
anyway,
congratulations on the accomplishment then.
I know, I feel so honored, right? But I had to get back home. But in the process, I wasn't anticipating to be in a wheelchair, and then was put into a wheelchair and had to navigate around. Las Vegas certainly wasn't an easy spot to do that, but it really makes you think about where everything is. And so when I came back to my hotel and I was still in the role of being a general manager, I actually had wheelchairs that I would bring in, and I would let my staff wheel through to look at where was the height, where was the perspective, how do you navigate and get around? Because unless you're literally in the shoes or in the wheels of somebody else, it's so much harder to see it. And we made so many positive changes because of that. So a helpful tip.
That's a really good point. When I broke my ankle, I didn't travel very much for one. I couldn't for 7 weeks, but then even when I could, I really tried to prevent myself from traveling as much as I can. But when I did, I would sit in the middle of the room. I would get everything in the middle of the room, and I would literally just kind of like go in a circle to just get everything I needed, because it was a challenge. Well, thank you, Suzanne, for that story.
My pleasure.
See you later. All right, that was pretty cool. So, Anthony, any final words before we wrap up today's show?
No, what's today? Friday?
No, it's Monday. Anthony.
Today's Monday?
It's Monday.
No, it's not Monday. Wait, you're messing with me, right?
No, that's when this show is airing. As people are watching this right now live, it's
Monday. Dude, you really freaked me out. I'm sitting there going,
we're recording it on Friday because I'm going to fly on Monday, and these guys are available today. So it all worked out in a beautiful picture.
I understand.
Yeah, you know what else is really great that we have that helps people get to the show? Well, if you want to listen to the audio version only, if you're literally working out, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, you know where to go. Anywhere you get your podcast, well, that's where we are. And if you want to reach out to us personally, it's at Anthony Hotels, at Traveling Glenn.
All right, sir. I'll call you once in 5 minutes, because I know you need to talk to me. Yep. That was a great show, and welcome back from your trip. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow right back here on No Vacancy Live. What's going on with my mouse? Hold on. All right, I'm ending the show, and I can't get that.